Welcome to Quack Co, the board game channel where every video is 10 minutes or less guaranteed, and today I want to talk to you about app-based games. Let's have a conversation, or at least start one. Because over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, I have noticed an influx of app-based board games, tabletop games that are merging something in the digital realm with the physical space. And honestly, over the last 6 months, the amount of companies that have reached out to me to cover hybrid games, paired with things like Destinies that set a foundation for how well apps could be integrated into a board game experience, they've really started to transform and impact or influence the conversation around digitizing the tabletop genre. And so I wanted to hear from you. Are you still holding out? Are you one of those people that is just unwilling to play a digital version of a board game? You don't want your phone or even an iPad that's not connected to anything, not receiving messages or anything like that. You just don't want it tied up on your table. Or are you a little bit more where I am? Intrigued about the concept, open to the conversation, willing to play a game with an app, but always a little bit hesitant. Always questioning if the app is going to take me more out of the experience or if it's going to enhance the story and continue doing some incredible things on the table. Whatever the conversation is, I do think there's at least one thing that's worth noting and acknowledging. This is where the tabletop space is going, both in the D&D RPG world with hybrids and storage systems and role-playing games and things that are integrating a digital world into the tabletop formula, from wall-mounted TVs to DMs running on iPads with all their notes and stats and dice rolling mechanics, all the way down to people that have embedded digital screens into the game surface in front of them. It's where other parts of our hobby are going as well, with trading card games and other mechanic systems translating into the board game or the video game space better than we're seeing them on the table. Slay the Spire, being probably one of my favorite deck-building games of all time, is not a game that we can currently play in front of us, although there have been rumors that there is one coming, although it's been delayed now. Through the Ages is widely known as an incredible board game that is better as an app. We've seen Wingspan, we've seen Everdell, we've seen so many of these board games that have fan bases, that have people that love them. Root has a fantastic app implementation. And so this is something we are going to be seeing. We are going to be seeing a merging of video games coming over onto the tabletop space with IP crossovers. We're going to be seeing board games that incorporate apps into how they play and function and flow. And we're going to be seeing famous and popularized tabletop games like Wingspan coming over into the digital realm, where you might have friends that are willing to sit down and play some of your favorite board games with you, but they'll only be willing or only able to do it through a digital surface. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the appification of our genre and of our hobby space and what it means for the industry. Well, first, there's always going to be plenty of board games that you can play without a digital integration, and so if you're a holdout, that's fine. I would love to know why, though. For me, I think there's a few core things that make apps and digital versions of board games less approachable or less desirable. First is going to be the fact that I spend so much time connected to this stuff throughout the course of the day that I often find that even having my phone around me during a game session takes me out of the gameplay experience. It removes the thing that I want around the table, which is to sit down and have fun with friends and talk and laugh and focus on a mechanics engine, focus on a story, focus on what we're doing in front of us. And these things do not help that almost ever. If I have notifications popping up, if I have emails showing up, I just by my own nature am going to be distracted. I'm going to be thinking about other things, and I'm going to want to check what those things are. I will, some evenings when let's be honest, most evenings when I play games, I set my phone off onto the side or in another room, and I try to avoid interacting with it as much as possible because it doesn't typically result in a better play experience. Other things that concern me about the app is that it's another expense. It's another thing to manage. It opens the door to whether or not I have it charged or downloaded or updated, or if I'm connected to the internet, if I'm traveling. It can just be harder to function with, harder to deal with from time to time. And on top of that, I find that there's a lot of board games that bring apps into the gameplay experience to such a degree that it actually removes me from playing a board game. I feel like I should really just be playing a video game at the end of the day. Now, there are exceptions when they're incorporating story or making mechanics choices behind the scenes, but I find that balance is oftentimes really hard to strike, and I have definitely played app-based board games that just should have been a video game. Forget about the tabletop surface elements that are there. It just isn't necessary. Some of the positives, though, some of the things that I really like about app-based board games or board games that are incorporating a technology into it, is that the AI, the memory systems that exist so well in storytelling video games, are able to be incorporated into the tabletop experience in a really positive and profitable way. You don't have to run or manage a deck of cards. You don't have to be tracking whether or not characters have lived or died, or whether they like you, or where your relationship scales with a larger plethora of characters, all the stuff that's not really fun to deal with. An app allows you to dive into that, to watch the progression of a story and of a conversation, and watch as a narrative expands without you having to do all of the behind-the-scenes accounting work that's necessary. And I don't enjoy the behind-the-scenes accounting work at all. I don't enjoy it in my personal life. I certainly don't enjoy it in my video games or board game space. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't mind managing resources, and I want to track some of those dials, but I want to track like 5 dials, not 364 like a lot of these video games that require you to. On top of that, an app can sometimes enhance the immersion of a gameplay experience, from voiceover text to atmospheric sounds that are happening as it plays to timers and new initiations. There's a lot of opportunities there with apps to continue bringing you into the fold. And as long as I've placed my phone or iPad on airplane mode, so I'm not getting any distractions, sometimes those immersive elements do pull me deeper into the game. And then finally, an app can help with learning, teaching, tutorials, questions, setup. I'm thinking about Moonrakers, Lumineer, with all of the little helpful bubbles, icons, and question marks you can click on that guide you through every single course without having to go find a rulebook and dig for answers. It's all right there. And well-built apps help you do that. They help tell you what tiles to set up, where people move, and what some of the mechanics are going to be. And stepping away, if you move from just a board game app hybrid to board games that are actually turned into video game apps, like Root, for instance, it allows you to play a video game, or allows you to play a board game in a video game genre or methodology, which means I can play anywhere without a big table in front of me with anyone across the globe. And that's honestly a pretty powerful system as well. I don't have to worry about getting a group together all the time. When we're in the office at work, I can go into the restroom and pop on and take my turn. And there's a lot of value in that as well. It can actually increase the amount of time you're playing the genre of game you enjoy, even if you don't have a dedicated game group or some portion of your game groups move away. On top of that, I'm really interested to see how this continues to expand, how we start seeing crossovers and add-ons that pair with this video game system, this board game system. There's a lot of variables here. And this conversation was mostly to get some of these thoughts out of my system and also figure out from you, the community. Where are you setting right now? Are you someone who is diehard against apps or really excited to see them integrated? Do you play some of your favorite board games through digital versions now? Have we started adapting into that space? Do you enjoy board games that have somehow found that balance between a helpful app with a tabletop setting? And are you coming from the RPG world at all, where this has been a thing that's been happening for some time now, as apps have actually increased the availability of information and the ease of play and ease of flow? Whatever the case, that's the topic that I wanted to breach with you. Let me know your thoughts. I'm really interested in reading the comments down below. And we'll talk later.